Deep within each of us is a racial memory of rocks falling out of the sky and killing people. And sometimes it's a little difficult for us to handle. So like children, we turn on all the lights, lock the closet door, jump into bed and pull the covers over our heads and say, if the monsters can't see me, they can't hurt me. Well, you know, there is a little bit of truth to that because asteroids and superbolides cannot see us. But that will not stop them from killing us. On February 15, 2013, a superbolide meteor blindsided everyone on the planet, including NASA and the Russian Air Defense System. Entering Earth's atmosphere at a shallow angle, it growled through the skies at 60 times the speed of sound and detonated over a remote region of the Chelyabinsk Oblast at an altitude of 18.4 miles above the ground. Thankfully, nobody died, but nearly 1,500 people were injured, including 311 children. There were a few serious injuries, but most were hurt by glass falling on them, or worse, having shards of glass blown into their faces by the detonation as they looked out their windows to see what was growling across the sky. When the superbolide detonated, it was momentarily 30 times brighter than the sun, which caused hundreds to suffer eye pain and temporary flash blindness. This is because when the Chelyabinsk superbolide detonated, it released 30 times as much energy as the little boy uranium bomb dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. One can only imagine the death and havoc an event such as this would have created had it detonated over a major city like Paris, New York, Moscow, or London. And so as the story faded from the front page, as all stories do, it was out of sight and out of mind for most. But for a few in the science community, the event triggered a new awareness that perhaps we'd become complacent about the threat of an impact event. Nonetheless, when it does come, and it will do so with a vengeance, what will you do then? Where will you drive to when the streets become parking lots? And where do you hide from a mountain of water? Nowhere. This is why in the first program in this series, Planet X 101, Who, What, When, Where, Why, and How, we presented our initial analysis of fireball observation reports. Our source is the American Meteor Society, and you can learn more about this reporting site at amsmeteors.org. For over a year we've been studying their reporting data, and what it told us is that for those living along a coastline, it's time to bust a move inland. In my case, it was from Santa Cruz on the northern California coast to Reno, Nevada. But that's just me. As for you, if you live along a coastline and you're watching this, then I also suggest you visit our site at yowza.com, that's YOWUSA.com, to read my article, It's Time to Bust a Move. Then you decide for yourself. In this program, we're going to give you a detailed analysis of AMS Meteor Observation Report data. Let's get started with yearly trends. At Yowza.com, what we're tracking are fireball reports, those big ugly rocks that fly through the sky and make the evening news. And this year started with an interesting twist, so to speak. So let's get caught up. The AMS reporting data presented in our first program in this series, Planet X 101, Who, What, When, Where, Why, and How, was through to October 2013. In this program, we'll update that to include the first quarter of 2014. So let's get started. Here we see the complete actuals for all of 2013. Based on those 2013 actuals, here are the monthly estimates for 2014. Now let's see how the 2014 estimates compare with the first quarter of 2014. In January, the estimate is spot on. The actual for January is consistent with the estimate based on the prior year actual. However, in February, we see a drop, not only from the estimate, but from the February 2013 actual as well. Again in March, we see the same thing as February. The actual is below the estimate as well as the prior year actual. So what could account for this? First off, we're not talking about meteor showers like the Perseids, which many of us enjoy watching on warm August nights. Rather, we're tracking fireballs such as the one observed over Japan in January of this year. Large, solitary rocks that come screaming out of the heavens. With that in mind, here is one explanation for the first quarter drop in fireball observation reports. As we've reported, we're tracking an approaching second sun in our system. Astronomers have named it Nemesis. It is the core of what we refer to as the Planet X system. Nemesis is a brown dwarf companion to Sol, with its own planets and rings as well. To illustrate one explanation for the drop in the 2014 first quarter fireball observations, let's use this illustration of the rings of Saturn as the backdrop for our example. In this case, the data could be telling us that Earth is now between the bands. Therefore, we do not really know what is coming next. Another bigger band? Or could it be over? With either scenario, the terms coincidence and natural variability come to mind. They did for us, and for that reason, we dug hard into the data. And here is what we found. Let's assume that the brown dwarf at the core of the Planet X system is like the other massive objects in our solar system, in that it is also surrounded by rings. So, are we encountering those rings? If so, how would it be expressed in the data? Let's see. For the purpose of this study, we're going to use a line graph instead of a bar chart. And here we are starting with the 2013 to 2014 actuals based on current AMS reporting data. Using this data, we can project through to the end of 2015, and this shows a steady uptick. Then when we extend the projection out to 2016, we see an even greater uptick happening. And finally, when we go to the end of the projection in January 2017, the trend does appear ominous. With this in mind, let's see where the Chelyabinsk superbolide that detonated over Russia on February 15, 2013 fits into this picture. Here we have added the Chelyabinsk superbolide to our previous timeline. What it shows is that there has been a steady uptick in actuals since that event. However, when we expand the timeline to cover the period 2009 through January 2017, this is when we really begin to get a sense of what is happening. This is not coincidence, nor is it natural variability. And if you're living along a coastline, you should be concerned. Now let's take a look at multi-state observations. The interesting thing about the Chelyabinsk superbolide that detonated in the skies over Russia last year was that it came right out of the sun. And so both the Russian air defense system and NASA were completely blindsided. This is why we take a special interest in multi-state fireball reports, as these tend to be large fireballs or superbolides with shallow trajectories such as the Chelyabinsk superbolide. It's not uncommon to see reports coming in from 3 or 4 states for these large fireballs, or in some cases, 2 or more countries. So let's see what the data tells us. Here we see the updated actuals for all of 2013, which tracks closely with the yearly trends we saw before. Using those actuals, we were able to project estimates for 2014. So let's see how the estimates compare with the first quarter of this year. In January, we're seeing that the estimate and the actual are spot on. While the February actual is well below the estimate, it's not that far off from the 2013 actual for February. And in March of this year, we see that the actual is on par with February, but significantly lower than the actual for 2013 as well as the estimate for this year. But if you think we're out of the woods, don't draw that conclusion in haste, not until you see what we have next. The AMS data set is very rich with many different types of data, but the one that really gets our attention the most are called huge events. In the first program in this series, Planet X 101, Who, What, When, Where, Why, and How, we introduced viewers to the AMS classification system, where mid-sized events get 6 to 20 reports, significant events get 21 to 50, and large events get 51 to 100. Huge events get 100 plus reports. The huge classification is usually reserved for the biggest, brightest, and noisiest space rocks. These are the ones we need to worry about, so let's take a look at the trend data. Here we see the actuals for 2013, and the first thing we can't help but notice is that it's a bit spotty. Then, using the general trend projection, we created 2014 estimates for huge events. So let's see how the estimates fit with the actuals so far for this year. With January of this year, what we now see is a reverse in the earlier trend data for the first quarter, which shows several reporting types with lower values. Then in February, a surprise. Since there were no prior year actuals for this classification, we could not make a prediction. Nonetheless, there were 2 huge events in February. It's also interesting to note that there were no huge events in March. So was February a fluke? We wondered about that ourselves. But as we were finalizing our study, a huge event occurred in April. Like February of this year, there was no estimate because there was no prior year actual. So while we are seeing a downward trend for the first quarter and the earlier categories we showed you, what we're seeing with the huge classification is anomalous and disturbing. To help put this in context, we're now going to present the 2 most significant trends in this report. It has plummeted in terms of huge events. Once again, we factor in the late reporting data for huge events in April of 2014, and we see an uptick that does rise above the 2013 actuals and the 2014 estimates, while at the same time, we're seeing a virtual flat line on multi-state events. In terms of similar reporting outside the U.S., we did not find any sources as competent or as thorough as the American Meteor Society. But this is what we did piece together. There was no significant reporting of fireballs until September 2013. Since then, we've been able to follow two principal areas. In Europe, we're seeing multi-country reports that span all the way across Europe, over the UK, and some even as far as Ireland. In Oceania, we're seeing multi-country reports that span the distance from New Zealand to Australia. These observations are based on the timestamps of the reports. Given that 71% of the surface of our planet is covered by oceans, we believe that unless these trends dramatically reverse themselves this year, there is a high likelihood of a deep impact event in our near future. This was a key factor in my own decision to bust a move from the Santa Cruz area of California to Reno, Nevada. Now, for those of you living along a coastline, I hope you take the information presented in this program to heart, and that you do the same. And just remember, every day of procrastination is one less day of survival options. And I'll leave it on that note. So until the next time we meet, remember Marshall's motto, destiny comes to those who listen and fate finds the rest. So learn what you can learn, do what you can do, and never give up hope. This is Marshall, and I'll catch you on the backside.
Today, it was just a couple of hours old on Facebook. You can clearly see the sun, and you can clearly see two other objects in the sky. Are these other objects? Are they lens flare? You're the expert there, Rex.
I'm not an expert. I wouldn't go that far.
Well, you're more of an expert than I am. Let's put it that way. Okay, so this was just today, within the last couple of hours, where here's the sun right there in the center. You have what looks like another white object just to the left of it, and then just below that, a little bit diffused, so maybe that could have been a flare, showing two things next to our sun. And it's full color.
Now, if we go to, okay, and let's go to the next one here. This one was taken from Skywatch Media on the 11th of this month. It looks like it was taken from the inside of an airplane, and the only problem when you see the shots taken through windows, right, especially airplanes, is I heard that there are multiple panels. So
yes, I've heard the same thing. This person did take it looking out the window. Supposedly the person said that everyone was told to keep their blinds down for some reason. There's our sun right there in the center. And then there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 objects. They could
say where? Sorry to interrupt, no. Bob. Did they say what country they were in, where they were flying to, what area they were over?
No, they didn't. Some people on Facebook, they're being very quiet where they're taking the photographs now.
The neat thing is, if we're going to find this infamous planet, if it's out there, if it's a brown dwarf star, if it's an entire solar system that's bringing with it, people are going to need the coordinates. So when images like this get sent to you, if you could take it even a step further and say, hey, this is a great image, now this is definitely a possibility, send us the coordinates, and then you can get it out to astronomers that are, amateurs and people just in their backyard that have telescopes. We can point them in that direction, and if there's something there, if you've got enough people collaborating on it, you should be able to pick something up. And then some people say a lot of times you can't find these things unless you've got infrared. Well, they do have options that you can hook up to telescopes that are infrared options too. So that's a pretty good image. I would like. Go ahead.
Here's one point I want to point here. I've heard this from several people, whether they know, whether they're just guessing or not. We have seen 8 objects in our skies since April 10th, 2015. Do these objects have their own satellites also? I do not know. Okay? Do they have moons, asteroids, whatever? Because the planet Nibiru, according to NASA's photograph in 2008, has 13 satellites. Now, do each of these other satellites, do they have their own orbiting satellites? I do not know. So I'm not quite sure exactly what we're seeing. And I'll be very honest with that. I've only been able to pick out. Go ahead.
No, okay. I'm sorry. I was going to jump onto the next. Totally hear what you're saying there. I was just going to jump onto this photo that was taken on the 7th, on 1/7/2017. Now, this one doesn't say who it was taken from on the screen here. I like this one because this one wasn't taken through a window, and you can tell that this isn't, at least to me, it doesn't look like lens flare, and you can see clearly the light source, what looks like the sun, but then underneath it there's another light source, which makes me wonder, is that the sun that we're looking at, or is that something above the sun?
This one,
do you know what
state
state this is in, or what state?
The person did not mention it, no. I had posted some stuff on Facebook.
Picture right here.
Yeah, I had posted some photographs in reply to someone else here on Facebook just one day on January 7th. And this one person popped up a couple of photographs saying that they were seeing this in their skies. Now, a lot of my friends on Facebook have been mentioning that their computers have been taken out by viruses or whatever over the months, and people have been refused back onto Facebook, and then they're coming back up under different names or changing their names instead of the way they originally had to, like end name first and then their first name. So a lot of people are being very quiet on Facebook now. I've even seen a couple of anonymous photographs, and I've been very careful about those photographs. You know, if it's going under anonymous, I usually don't send those to yourself or to a couple other people I've been on their shows. So, yes, it looks to me that the sun was down below, and here's this big yellowish-looking thing in the sky above it. That's my take on this photograph.
It's a good image, and once again, it could be the sun, so I don't know, and underneath it, it could just be some type of optical illusion or reflection, but I do think that that's a great image. And then I'd like to jump down to the next one that came out on the 7th. It looks like this is another one that was possibly from the Middle East, just because of the font.
Yes, it is.
And this was this like in India or Pakistan, or do you know where this is located?
Over in Egypt, as far as I've been told.
Okay, Egypt.
So, yes, it's over. This is a friend of mine named Whale. A Whale Basoma, I think his name. I'm not going to. His first name is Wael, and he's always been showing these photographs. And he's been doing this one guy is a friend of his, and this person's been getting excellent photographs in the Middle East. I've gone to his webpage many times, but nothing is in English. And I don't play around with Google Translate anymore because people have told me that it's not translating it correctly. I like his page. He's not a friend of mine. He doesn't. So I go on his page every once in a while, and he's in some really excellent photographs.
Okay, and let's go down below that. It looks like you sent me a double on the one that was just above that, so we'll skip that one. And then
Okay.
there's one right below that that says CNN. I want to skip that one because I don't know, exactly if I can use that or not because it's got the CNN report on it. But let's go right below that where it looks like something out of a Skycam or something out of a webcam, essentially. And it was taken on the 24th of last year, 12/24.
Right. Okay, 12/24. Is it 12/26 or 24?
No, this one's 12/24. This one's from 12/24, 2016.
Okay,
It says
12/24.
Anil Pires. Perez, yeah.
Yes, that one's taken directly from an observatory. You can see the west part there, and over to the left is the east. So this is what this one observatory was seeing in their skies. Almost every observatory has this like a circular view where they look up and they're looking straight at the night sky, and they'll have east, west, north, and south, as you're seeing right there. And here's this big quarter circle of something that's in the skies right there above them. I've seen this many times since 2015. Usually it's nice and clear in the skies. This one was kind of like a quarter moon or something, but it wasn't our moon because it's broad daylight.
Let's go to the next one now. On
Sure.
Oh, okay. On 12/19, this one I think is fascinating. Again, another one it looks like from possibly the Middle East or Egypt, and it looks like a crescent moon to the left, and then the sun going down to the right on the horizon there. What's your take on this one? 12/19, 2016.
Okay, 2016. This one was again from that same type of person. The sun is it looks like it's going down. And this huge quarter, like God's fingernail off to the left, it's just starting to show itself. And he or she had several other photographs, and it clearly was not our moon. This was something else large in our skies besides the moon.
It's a beautiful picture right there. I mean, if you look at that's almost the kind of picture that you could have as a desktop or as a poster. That's a very surreal image. I like that one a lot. Now, to me, it looks like a crescent moon, but it's huge. I mean, it's enormous, especially compared to the sun that's setting there. So if it's something, it could be some type of just beautiful optical illusion or not. I don't know. I'd like to, if we look at the next image below that, this one's from 12/17, and I can actually debunk this one pretty quick, and I'll tell you why. Because at first, when this was going around the internet and making the YouTube circles on videos, there was video footage of this thing, and people are saying it looks like the Death Star. It looks like Cosmic Q-Bird. It looks like Pac-Man, and it does. It does look like that. This telescope are you looking at the same image that I'm looking at?
Yes, that's the same image that showed up on February 18th in the skies. One of my friends caught it with a green filter, showing that exact same hole in the center. That's a correct image. Okay. Yeah, my friends have caught it with telescopes, whatever. Since then, it's gotten larger and larger and larger. So this was I have an original photograph of this thing from an observatory and from in the sky with a guy using a green filter. So this is real. This is a real object.
I'm not saying it's not a real object, but let me finish what I was saying if I can about it.
I'll
go ahead and Oh, that's okay. No problem. I can debunk the hole in the center of it, though, just because yesterday, actually, when I had my telescope out, I was looking at one of the stars in the western sky, And because those stars are so bright, if you have video imagery on it as well, it has to be perfectly still. Because if it's not perfectly
Right.
still, even just the most minute vibration, because it's so far away, it will make it shake. Now, what that hole is in the center is actually the object itself. And what you're seeing around it is the light that it's emitting, whether it's from another star hitting that object or whether it's a star itself. And because it's so bright, when the camera picks it up, it literally blacks it out. It can't. It's such the sensors. It messes with the sensors. So what you're seeing, the object itself, is that hole. It's the center. It's a solid object. But the way that the lights and the camera picks it up, that's the type of image that you'll get. I was looking at the exact same thing the other day when people were saying, "Hey, look up in the western sky. People think it's Venus, but it's not Venus." I'm pretty sure it's Venus. Maybe it's a star, but whatever it was giving me that exact same image through the telescope.
Okay.
Are you following me?
Well, I can to a point. Like I said, this other friend, he caught it with a camera with a green filter, and it showed the exact same type of thing, but looking at it from a different angle. So I'm no expert on this. You're more of an expert than I am. You have a lot more people are smarter than both of us are telling you things. So, that's the only thing I can say is that from '02, February 18th, I have the photographs, several in a row, using a welder's green filter this guy used. And it's the same looking object. So whether you can see more light, because it looked exactly the same thing but green. Now a lot of these shiny ones are showing up more and more out of Australia and New Zealand. That one person down there using his telescope, and I've seen some. And I admit that the black thing is kind of like, I've seen the videos where it's kind of going around, because the camera that's taking the photographs is being just moved tiny bits. So I understand what you're saying too, but the photographs I have taken with a green welder's filter show exactly the same thing, except they're green.
So
you don't see the
jump
bright.
Down to the. Okay. So we'll jump down to the next one then. 12/1/2016. This is a green image. It looks like it was taken from Mark, and I can actually take images of multiple stars in the sky that will look just like that, right above it, the one like we said with the big hole in the center of the big Death Star. So it's not that one specific object. You could do that with a multitude of stars and planets out there, just based on the way that the filter and the lens and the telescope, everything that works together, and the way that it's picking up that light, it's going to pick something like that up. So it's just kind of out of focus and it's so far away. But this image right now, the next one that I want to look at with you, Bob, that I think is a good image is from Mark, and this was taken on the 1st of December last year, so a little over a month and a half ago. And this looks like there's a secondary object, just I guess you could say at the 12 o'clock position, right above the sun. Exactly. And this one was taken with like a welder's filter, you said, or some type of green film.
That one appears to be, yes. I'm not an expert on this stuff. So it does appear this person's using a greenish looking filter of some type. And the sun's at the very bottom, and there's that secondary object right above it, yes.
Yeah. Now, did Mark say where that was taken either, or did he want to leave that anonymous as well?
Almost all the people I'm talking to, they're leaving it almost exactly quiet. They're not saying where they're taking it, what they're using, or anything. They don't want any of the dark side to go on them, supposedly. I can't blame them.
Sure. Now, there's another one that was taken on the 27th. It looks like 11/27. This one as well from Mr. Perez. So we'll jump onto this one real quick. And it looks like to the right of it a little bit, looks like, I guess you could say it about the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock position. Is that the anomaly that he was pointing out?
Yes.
All
And
right.
that's 1127.216D, I think.
E. Two
Oh, E.
E. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you know, people are catching these things left and right, you know, using their own cameras, using telescopes, because like I said, a lot of the webcams, which were really helpful, giving you all the date and time along the top of the image, you know, a lot of people were seeing other people's computers being taken out, and they didn't want the same thing, so they're keeping it rather quiet.
Now it looks like here's another one that was taken on 11/27/2016. It's B Gem Tops
Yes.
from EarthCam. Now, do you think that's two suns right there?
Jim Tops has always been really, really honest with me, and person said that was actually two suns in the skies. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Now, when I look at this image, what I'm seeing is that building to the left
Yes.
that shows almost the exact same light as to the right. That's a glass building, and it looks like it's reflecting off of a window or something, like it's a reflection off of the building itself. Do you see that?
I see it, and I understand what you're saying, but Jim Tops was very clear with this Earth cam that, yes, it looks like a reflection, but it wasn't. You know, I didn't take the photograph, so I can't honestly say one way or the other.
Let's go to this one from, I think this one was originally taken from Teresa Caldwell. I like her. She's a nice lady. This one was taken on 11/15/2016. And we had shown this once before, I think, in a previous video. This is one of the images that I think is pretty cool. It's pretty compelling. Was this taken in Mesa, Arizona? Is that right?
This one here, I think it was hers, yes, and it probably was taken in Mesa, Arizona, yes. This is one of my fouls. I didn't put the name underneath it.
Well, that's okay. This one I remembered because Teresa actually, this image from last year, she had it on her Facebook page, and this was one of the images that I looked at, and I thought that it was so good that there must have been some type of something added, you know, to the light or something like that. And Teresa said no. So this is definitely a cool image, and you can certainly see all the chemtrail clouds and the just haze that's in the background. They certainly spray the crap out of that area. So that's a good image. Let's go to this one from 11/15/2016. This is 11/15/2016 E, and this one it looks like there's an anomaly in the background there. That's an interesting image.
See two anomalies on that one there. You can see two anomalies. Yes, there's one huge thing right behind that tree in the foreground, and then up at the top near the 1 o'clock level, there's another one right there. So you have this huge thing with what looks like stripes being picked up right behind the tree. Then you have another anomaly right there above it at the 1 o'clock level. So you actually have two things being seen in the night sky. And that's 11/15/216 Is that the one you were talking about?
Yes, that's the one. And then the next one, too, that I want to share with the audience, this one was taken 11/12/2016 B is the picture that you have it titled Skywatch Media. This one appears to have two anomalies above, two orbs above the sun here, and those are lit up pretty well, and you can see the chemtrail clouds getting lit up as well. So the only thing I'm wondering about this one is it looks like it was taken inside of a window because you can see a whole bunch of
shadow type area
on the bottom. Yeah.
Right. And then those two upper things, they would be behind the sun, away from us, to be that light in the sky. And that's the same thing which, if it were, in the Colburn said that since this thing was showing up behind our sun, that's where they started seeing all this stuff. Now, John Moore also says the same thing. John Moore, he's a retired military intelligence person. I'm not sure if he was on your show or not. He's had several videos out recently where he's been talking in his videos exactly like I've been warning about since 2017. So here's a person I've never met. Never met this guy. This guy has his own radio show. I've never been on his radio show. I've sent him photographs, never got any replies. And here he is, he's saying the exact same thing, that this is something that's coming from behind our sun. And we're just barely starting to see it in the skies right now. And those three objects you see right there. There's the sun at the bottom, and you can almost see like a light flare coming off the sun at around the 2 o'clock position, and it's whipping up. Can you see that in that photograph?
Yes.
Okay. And then these other two objects above it, for them to be that bright, they're behind the sun. At least that's what I've been told. And I understand the brightness part. Those two things are on the opposite side of our sun to be that bright, especially that late in the afternoon or morning. A lot of these people, they never say when it was taken in the morning or not, and I don't have all the data at the top of the photograph to know it was taken at nighttime or morning. But yes, that's a fantastic photograph right there. And that's why I sent it to you today.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely a good one, Bob. Let's jump to the next one too by Taunton Gene. This was taken November of last year, November 12th, it looks like. It's 11/12/2016
And that is the Antarctica station of God, my mind's going nuts now. It's something station number 3. That station, I have photographs going back to 2011. 2011. And something was caught in that same location by that same exact camera. Now this camera shows one object and a second object right above it. Now this is interesting. It has all the data right there at the top of the image. 2000. Let's see. It's 2016. November 12th, and it's taken at 0358 in the morning. It's the Neumayer station number 3, Antarctica. So you clearly see 2 objects right there above the station. Now this is the same station that showed the first of these 8 objects on April 10th, 2015. Very clear in the skies right above it. And then my friend Sharon caught it in her skies over Illinois in color on April 29th, 2015. The first of these 8 that were being caught in our skies. So this station is being run by the Jesuits. The Jesuits have been paying for all of the Earth's observatories to track this stuff. It's being kept very quiet.
You know, I'm I'm looking at that image, and it almost kind of looks like a lens flare to me, because if you look at the pinkish, anytime you see a lens flare, it's really easy to pick out the ones that have the reddish wings. And for somebody that's never
Okay.
seen that before, that starts researching Planet X and they take a picture of the sun and they see that anomaly, they think, because it looks like the red Kachina, it looks like the winged destroyer. I mean, if you think that in your mind, but then you
Sure.
can do a video of it and you can move it back and forth, and that lens flare will move back and forth with the camera. So it's very easy to debunk with video. So when you look at that, the way that it's parallel with the actual sun itself, to me that looks like a lens flare. But you know, that is a cool image nonetheless. And I have seen some very interesting images from Antarctica. If there's anywhere that you can find this brown dwarf, I bet you Antarctica is one of the places to be. That's just a very mystical
Right.
place. Let's go to the one that is 11/1/2016B. This one, you can
B.
see the reflection off of the water, and then to the
Well,
right of it.
okay. 11/11/2016.
No, 11/1. 11/1. We're skipping the 11/11. We're going to 11/1/2016B. This one was taken from the Middle East as well.
Okay, let me find that one. Okay. 11/01/2016B. That one's taken from the Middle East also. Now you can see what I believe is the sun. It shows the light going left and right from about 11 o'clock down to about 5. Then there's the nice orange thing in the sky right there.